Tonight, did Prime Minister Carney just blink in a standoff with President Trump over the digital services tax? And the date has been set for a key by-election that could finally put Conservative leader Pierre Poilievre back in Parliament.
And it's open season in the NHL free agency. Details coming up in the Sports Pulse segment. From Montreal, I'm Eddie Tekalik.
And I'm Gary MacDonald. This is Night Talk, episode 40. Feel free to join the conversation tonight. Simply post your thoughts in the comments, and we will respond to as many as possible. Now, let's dive in.
It's very simple. Prime Minister Carney in Canada caved to President Trump in the United States of America.
White House Press Secretary Karoline Leavitt, responding to a reporter's question on Monday after Prime Minister Mark Carney announced he was suspending the digital services tax due to take effect this past Monday.
Last night I had a good conversation with President Trump, and we agreed to recommence our negotiations with a view to the 21st of July deadline that we had agreed in. Kananaskis, Ministers Champagne and LeBlanc had conversations with their counterparts as well. We've restarted the discussions this morning. We have, to be clear, it's part of a bigger negotiation. It's something that we expected in the broader sense that would be part of a final deal. We're making progress towards a final deal. There's more to be done, to be clear. And as I just said, which answers the translation question, as I just said, is a question of timing in terms of the date for the final negotiations and when the tax was coming into effect. And, you know, it doesn't make sense to collect tax from people and then remit them back. So it provides some certainty. And as I just said, negotiations have restarted. We're going to focus on getting the best deal for Canadians. We're making progress. There's more to do, and we'll keep you updated.
It started on Friday when U.S. President Trump announced on, of course, of all things, Truth Social, that he was suspending all trade talks with Canada until this tax is removed. And in that, he said, we have just been informed that Canada, a very difficult country to trade with, including the fact that they have charged our farmers as much as 400% tariffs for years on dairy products, has just announced they are putting a digital services tax on our American technology companies, which is a direct and blatant attack on our country. They are obviously copying the European Union, which has done the same thing and is currently under discussion with us also. Now, based on this egregious tax, we are hereby terminating all discussions on trade with Canada, effective immediately. We will let Canada know the tariff that they will be paying to do business with the United States of America within the next 7-day period. Thank you for your attention. Well, later on in the White House, he was not budging from that position.
So Canada put a charge on some of our companies, and Canada's been a very difficult country to deal with over the years. We hear Canada, we have a great relationship with the people of Canada, but it's been very difficult. And they put a charge, and they were a little bit early. We found out about it. So, and we have all the cards. We have every single one. We don't want to do anything bad, but they have economically, we have such power over Canada. I'd rather not use it.
Conservative leader Pierre Poilievre posted on X as well. As recently as 2 days ago, the finance minister insisted the digital services tax would proceed. Then the prime minister put his elbows down and canceled the tax at the 11th hour. The tax is gone for good. In exchange, the prime minister should insist the U.S. immediately rescind softwood lumber tariffs. We need to make gains for our workers in these talks. Canadians need certainty that Liberals will put Canada first and defend Canadian sovereignty in these negotiations. To stand up for Canada from a position of strength, the government must take emergency action to bolster Canada's economy, fully repeal the No Pipelines Law, the industrial carbon tax, the tanker ban, the emissions cap, the EV mandate, and axe the capital gains tax on reinvestments in Canada. As always, Conservatives are ready to help get a good deal for Canada. Well, so let's have a look at what is the digital services tax. It was a proposed 3% levy on revenues earned by large multinational tech companies like Google, Meta, Amazon, from digital services purchased by Canadians. It was aimed at addressing what Ottawa has called a fairness gap. Digital giants earning billions in Canada without paying proportional taxes. Well, Eddie, what do you think?
You know what, Gary? I had so many things just flying through my head. I mean, I seen the posts on Truth Social. I've seen what Mr. Poilievre has been saying. I've seen what T. Rump has been trying to say, and I guess the first thing that's kind of scaring me is that Donald Trump still doesn't know how a tariff works. I mean, Canada's going to be paying for tariffs. I mean, somebody should tap him on the shoulder and correct him again, so his people would understand what a tariff is. But this whole tax thing on the digital tax is a whole different animal. I don't know. My first reaction was, Gary, I'm probably sure, just like yours was, oh Jesus, did we just do that? Why did he do that? Why did he back off? It's something that was definitely a sore point with Trump. Why did he back off? And at first I was angry. I mean, we're in a position right now where we do have cards. I mean, Trump is saying he's got all the cards. Nah, he's probably got a few jokers, but he doesn't have all the cards. I really thought that we would push this right through and push the envelope and see what Trump ends up doing in terms of his tariffs. So at least from that point forward, we can continue to negotiate. I mean, Trump is saying we're not negotiating. That man is always open for a deal. He's always open for negotiation. So, at first I thought that Carney flinched. I was none too happy. I mean, that was my knee-jerk reaction. And then I kind of thought about it a little bit. If you look back at the Trudeau Sheinbaum situation way back when Trump said he's going to do A, B, and C, and both Sheinbaum and Trudeau basically let him talk and let him do what he wanted to do and claim victory when at the end of the day, Canada and Mexico got exactly what they had before the issues actually started. So let Trump claim victory. We're gonna conduct business and let the baby do what he wants to do. Is this the same situation here? Is Carney playing his backup card right now and his third backup in terms of this is how I'm going to work with Trump. I understand how this man-child thinks. I understand when he's going to react, and I'm hoping that he's actually got a certain target, a certain plan in mind that he wants to tick off the boxes in terms of this is what I managed to get for Canada. This is what I managed to get for Canadian businesses. This is how it's going to actually provide value to the Canadian citizen. Guys like you and me, Gary. My initially knee-jerk reaction was, "What are you doing? You just bow down to the king." But then I stepped back and I thought about, this is an experienced economist, global economist. He knows what he's doing. To be a successful economist, you have to know how to read people and how to take advantage of the weaknesses and put a plan together against those weaknesses that will get you the outcome you're looking for. So I'm not afraid. I'm no longer angry. Maybe I'm a little apprehensive, just waiting to see how the next page in his book turns. I think this was a strategic decision for him to back off and see what Trump's next move is going to be, and continue with the discussions. Angry first and just a little apprehensive right now, but I think he's working out a plan. How about you, Gary? I know you kind of you're kind of jumping up and down as well when you saw this.
Frankly, I was totally pissed the other day. And I was kind of fearful about how I was going to be for tonight's show. And I gave you the heads up, like, you might have to kind of take the helm here.
You did.
And I'm not a happy camper.
So do you think he flinched?
I still think he flinched to a degree. I think he does have a plan, and you're right, in the back rooms, because we have no idea what's going on in the back rooms at the moment. And certainly watching Carney speak to the reporters on Monday, he was very calm, very cool, very nonchalant. But and then to watch the White House press secretary say what she said, and then to sit here, have to download it, edit it, and reload it in for tonight's show, just got me wound up again.
You and I knew that the pink Barbie, the propaganda Barbie. You knew that they were going to take this as a complete victory. We got to put ourselves in our shoulders because they've had very little to boast about.
Well, true, but still, it hurts the sense of pride and for the country. No one likes to be called weak. No one likes to be, say that you just rolled over and surrendered. And that's what we're getting. And that's what they're putting out, although most people in the world now know that they can't trust a word that comes out of the White House, nor can they trust a word that comes out of Trump's mouth. So there is that.
It's hard to listen to.
It's really difficult to listen, and it's really difficult to be on the receiving end the way we were on the receiving end just before Canada Day, of all things, right? And don't tell me that bozo didn't know what he was doing when he pulled that stunt on Friday. All of a sudden, everything's off. But I do agree with Pierre Poilievre on this one, in the fact that, okay, maybe Carney, had this, and by the sounds of it, it sounds to me like it was on the list of things that they were willing to trade off anyway during the negotiations. But still, what did we get in return aside from them coming back to the table? And what's going to happen?
Come back to the table anyway.
Well, they have to.
Yeah,
despite
exactly.
what he says, that we don't need Canada. If you didn't need Canada, why are you so bent on getting us in as the 51st state? Because of the minerals we have, because of the water we have, because of the control of the Northwest Passage that we have, because of our power generation capabilities, fueling a lot of the Northeast U.S. that we have. There are any one of a number of things that we have the cards. We have the cards.
Absolutely.
And he knows it. And I still think that there should have been, at least, because Carney would know that how they were going to play this on Monday, just the way they played it, and get something out of it other than, well, we're going back to the table. And if you notice, if you watch Carney on Friday, his initial reaction was, the talks are still on. And that was his message, key message, from the time that this broke through until all of a sudden, on Monday after the Sunday night phone call and dumping of the tax. That's fine. And I get where they're going with it, because the OECD is looking at this issue and has been dealing with it and kind of kicking that can down the road on a global basis. So sooner or later, something's going to have to happen, or something will happen with this whole talk of a tax, whether you're in Canada, whether you're in Europe, or in the United States. We'll either just say, okay, we're moving forward with it, and Amazon and Google and the rest of them, Uber, Airbnb. You want to do business, this is the way it's going to be. It's just that simple. And if you don't want to do business, okay, that's fine. I'm sure that homegrown replacements will prop up. But just like, I'm still fuming, and again, even playing that clip tonight didn't help it.
Mm-hmm.
I'm willing to give Carney one more chance and see what he comes out with. But don't forget, we're wasting all of this time and energy and taking these slaps in the face or have sand kicked in our face by Trump in the White House. And no matter what deal we come out of this with, we still have 3 years of this guy, and he doesn't pay any attention to the deals that he does make.
Yeah. So, look at Kuzma.
Yeah.
I mean, he was, recently he's saying, well, that was the most terrible deal ever signed, and who the hell signed this? And then flash back to when he was president of the United States in his first term, he was the one basically said it was the best thing since sliced cheese, and he was the one who put this together. Yeah. So you're absolutely right. So you know what? We're going to sign a deal before our 30-day deadline. Fantastic. You know what? As soon as he feels there is something that he needs and we're not giving him, he's going to throw a tantrum and he's going to throw it in the garbage. And you mentioned this to me a few days ago. This is exactly what will happen, because we got 3.5 years of that circus that we still have to deal with. And this is why I'm thinking, Gary, behind in his mind, in terms of his plan, okay, you know what? Fine, Mr. Trump, you don't want to buy our products anymore? No problem. I've got about 20 countries over at the EU that are ready, that have already signed contracts with us, and we're going to honor our deals with them. We're going to get closer in terms of our economic ties with the European Union. So go figure out. Bye-bye. Mm-hmm. But there's a risk to that.
Oh, sure there is.
Is he crazy enough to send his soldier boys over the border because we pissed him off, or we're not giving him what he needs in terms of our minerals and our natural resources? Look, we're stuck next to him. That's the problem.
Yeah. But here's
the border's right there,
Yeah, which throws another kink in the whole scenario, and that is, if he attacked us, we're a member of NATO.
Yeah.
And an attack on one member of NATO is an attack on all of NATO. So does that mean all of a sudden the rest of NATO comes in to help us, to beat off
but
the guy who's been wailing about NATO from the get-go?
Yeah. Did he not, at the last NATO meeting, did he not balk on signing off or re-signing off in Article 5, that if one country gets attacked, everybody else goes into support? I'm not sure if I got my information right, but I don't think that he, how should I put it? Not that he disagreed with it, but he didn't put his heartfelt backing into that article where everybody else did. So
his big thing coming out of NATO, the NATO talks, was getting the spending up to 5%.
Yeah.
And just before we get behind a couple of comments, because I've got a couple of other thoughts as well. Okay, so Deborah says, hopefully he will eventually see that there is no negotiating with the U.S. And there isn't really, not a whole lot, let's put it that way.
Yeah.
For sure, Deborah. And Greg Zed comes in with, I totally agree with you, Deborah. So, there we go. Okay, all is good with the world there. All right. Now, let's get back to this for a minute, because there's another thing hanging in the distance. Oh, by the way, Carney said that when they go back in the fall, that he'll bring in legislation to do away with the digital services tax, period. It'll be gone. It's paused right now and gone when the Commons sits again. So, and that's fine. He's going to work with the OECD, which, like I say, has been kicking the can down the road forever. But maybe now something like this will kind of push that group into either dealing with it we're just closing the file and saying, nope, we surrender, we're going away now. The other thing is that, and he mentioned it in his Truth Social post last week, and that was the 400% tariff on dairy farmers. No, Mr. Trump, you signed off on that deal as part of CUSMA, and that is after a certain level, if you start to exceed your limits, your quotas that were worked in.
Yeah.
That's when they go up. It's not like we're charging 400% from day one. But there again, he's twisting the facts to make his case. And he's going to become, that's next on the agenda. And that's probably going to come up between now and July 21st, whatever the 31 days is. I think it's around July 21st.
Yeah.
I guarantee you, Eddie, that sometime between now and our next show next week, we're going to be dealing with Trump all of a sudden putting the push on over the supply management issue.
Mm-hmm.
Just after, if you recall, just before the House rose for the summer, it passed a motion put forward by the bloc to ensure that the supply management program was not on the table in any trade negotiations, that no trade minister would have the authority to even remotely suggest that, well, we could have a look at this as part of any trade negotiation. But now that he got this digital services tax out of the way, which the U.S., they just didn't learn about it the other day.
I wanted to bring that up.
Yeah,
that's why I'm thinking that Carney strategically threw that out there, knowing damn well that this has been something that's been tossed around for years. He just pushed the issue to have a deadline date. This is the deadline date we're going after. We're going to start taxing these major high-tech corporations. And I think he wanted to see Donald show his cards to see what his reaction was going to be, so he can essentially say, okay, we're going to go with plan B now that he's opened his mouth. And that bimbo Barbie had said this, that, and the other thing.
Yeah.
That's why I'm thinking it was done on purpose to basically say, yes, we're doing this, and then we're pulling it back to see what he's going to do. Because you're right. This thing has been on the floor for the last 4 years, I think. I mean, Trudeau brought it up. He just didn't carry it forward. I really think that Carney says, hey, let me blow the dust off of this plan here. Let me throw it in their face and see what happens with it. I just want to see how they're going to react. And he got his answer. That's what I'm hoping is happening here. That's a good poker move, man.
Yeah, but the other side of it is that the Trudeau government said it would be implemented June 30th or July 1st of 2025, and it would be backdated 2 years. So yeah, and it's a fair chunk of change when you look at backdating the 2 years. So
but the Americans knew about it. It's not.
They knew about it. They knew about it.
So why react with such? Oh my God, Gary, you and I are bad people. We're tough people to deal with up here. We're crazy, right? Jesus, like
he's a freaking drama queen, and he thrives on chaos. And Angelica says hello, and she loves your summer shirt.
Hi, Angelica.
Okay, so let's move on. We have one more new comment to throw in here. All right. From Greg, I think our Prime Minister in many ways is merely buying time by just trying to get the best possible deal as long as he is shown as the winner. And simultaneously, we are moving forward with trying to carve out other deals with the rest of the world, minimizing our dependency of ever having to deal with the states who through Trump have already shown there is no deal to be made with the USA. Mm-hmm. Truer words were never spoken. The end game is Canadians are no longer traveling south, and plane by plane, everyone is staying clear of the USA. And it's not only Canadians that are staying clear now too.
Well, it's kind of like, let T-Rum beat his chest and jump up and down and yelling victory, when in fact he doesn't have any victory, and we got what we needed to make our country more self-sufficient. Like, let him beat his chest, like the idiot that he is, and let's just move on our way and do what we need to do to evolve our country. It's that simple. But the thing is, watching them beat their chest is not an easy thing to do. That's the whole thing too.
Yeah. No.
Right? Yeah.
No.
Yeah.
No. Not at all. And I don't know if I can take another round of this. I don't know if I can, Eddie. As some of the people I used to work with would tell you, when you see the vein come out on the forehead, look out. It hasn't been out for a long time, but I think it's close.
Well, I saw that vein on Monday morning when we had coffee, man.
There you go. Now, just in case there might be somebody watching who hasn't really grasped yet or has forgotten exactly what it is we're dealing with the ringleader of the circus known as the White House now. There's another example that was making the rounds on social media over the weekend. And I said, this has got to be, this has to be just something somebody put together and threw up on TikTok.
And what was
But I go to Truth Social, and I do have the graphic here for that. Where is it? I go to Truth Social, and here we are. There's a post from his nibs, and it's a video.
Oh.
Now, I tried to bring the page into the system, but what would happen is every time I went off that scene, it would jump back to the latest on Truth Social, and then I'd have to scroll down through, and it wouldn't play, and I couldn't get the audio. So what I ended up doing was going in and managing to download the video. And this goes kind of along with a comment he made yesterday, which I'll bring up at the end of it. But this is the kind of individual we are dealing with when it's just unbelievable. Just let me get it here, and away we go. Here we are. Are you ready?
Okay.
Bomb, I ran. Bomb, 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 I ran. My way. Bomb, 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 I ran. Bomb, 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 my way. Bomb, bomb, I ran. My country's got a feel is really interesting. Bomb, I ran. Bomb, 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 I ran. Get to a mosque, gonna throw some rocks. Tell the Ayatollah, gonna put you in a box. Bomb, I ran. Bomb, 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 bomb.
Okay, enough of that. There is the actual post on his Truth Social with the video in it.
This is a president of a country that's supposed to be the leader
Of the free world.
of the free world, showing a good example to the rest of the world on how a good country should behave, conduct business. That was freaking, see this vein here, Gary? I hadn't seen the video. That is absolutely disgusting that the president of the United States would post something like this. Who cares who put it together? Some kid in the garage somewhere, or some of his cronies in his propaganda network on Fox. Like, you don't post this as a leader of a country? And in the sacrilege, using a Beach Boys tune, for crying out loud. That's worse. Sacrilege.
And what happens? Yesterday, he goes to the alligator Alcatraz in Florida for, I guess, the official opening of the 3,000 bed facility. There's only one road in and out. That's it. And it's, plunked in the middle of the swamplands, full of alligators and everything else. And, if anybody tries to make a run for it, good luck, because if the alligators don't get you, something else will.
Right.
Snakes or whatever. And he made a comment about that along the line of, well, if they try to get out, good luck, because, the alligators will get them. I forget exactly how he phrased it, but he made light of it. As he's rounding, his ice Gestapo goes out and rounds up people and, herds them off to these places. Like,
Gary, these are, it hurts because these are human beings. You know what? Maybe there's a small percentage of them that might be a criminal element, but there's a criminal element involved here. But from what we're seeing on ABF, when I say ABF, anything but Fox, regular people are being freaking scooped up.
Yeah.
I mean, the complaint is, we have these lowlifes coming across the border. They're not working, and they're taking money from the government for whatever plan, so on and so forth. They're not working. You kind of wonder, well, why does ICE actually have to go into a company or a place of work to find these people? I mean, these are people coming across the border and actually working and contributing to society. And these are the individuals you're throwing in this Alcatraz, this alligator Alcatraz. These are people, man. So just think about that. I mean, he's willing, and his cronies are willing to put hardworking people, okay, that came to the country to do good for their families. A lot of countries, advanced countries, will take in refugees and allow them to make a life for themselves while contributing to society, which the majority of them do. If he's willing to do that to people that had been on American soil for decades, raising families, contributing to the community, contributing to the country, if he's willing to do that to American citizens, okay, American landed immigrants, whatever status you want to call it, this guy will do anything to anybody in any country because he has a complete disregard for common decency and respect for a fellow human being. But that's Donald Trump. He's deranged. What really kills me is you have all of these Donald Trump cronies, the Retrumplicans, the Christian base that call themselves devout Christians when there's nothing devoutly Christian about any of the actions that government is taking on poor people in the States. So if he doesn't care about that, and the Christians are saying, well, great, we're great Christians, we're going to throw all these poor people in jail and deport them to God knows where, they should just take a very simple look at, the Bible and the teachings of Jesus Christ. A very simple statement: love thy neighbor. It's not
exactly
it's not love thy neighbor only if thy neighbor has white skin. Okay, so I see all of this, and the justification about being great Christians. A great Christian is not doing what they're doing to hardworking individuals. I don't deny there is a small criminal element. I mean, just look at any American city, and take out the criminal activity that might have been made by somebody that crossed the border decades ago from whatever country. Take a look at the individuals in these cities that are born white Americans and the criminal activity within these confines of communities in the United States. You check it out. You go into ChatGPT and it'll tell you. It's overwhelming in terms of the amount of criminal activity that's engaged by the white American compared to the immigrant that's come from either Mexico or whatever country. But yet they can still justify, everybody that's crossed the border illegally, they're going to be thrown in jail because they're criminals. It just it just turns my stomach, Gary. So, we're talking about the alligator Alcatraz. I'm sorry about that. Alligator Alcatraz.
It's a tough one.
You look at that video. You look at that video of bombers, like that whole thing. This is beyond a circus, Gary. I don't know what to call this anymore. I really don't know what to call this. This is supposed to be a government, okay? And it looks like that the people that are running this country are above the law. I mean, I wish I could remember the clip. Donald Trump was being interviewed, and he actually said, "This is how I rule." When was the last time you saw a democratically elected leader of a country say, "This is how I rule"? So this went straight from brain to mouth. This is his character. In his head, he is ruling the United States of America. And what's sad is a lot of people that have voted for him, a lot of them are saying, "Oh my God, what have I done?" But there's a tremendous amount of people that go, that's Donald, not realizing the damage he's doing to the United States today, the damage that the consequences of what he's doing today is going to be damaging for years to come to the people in the United States. Hence, this past weekend where they're passing that big, beautiful bill, and then the damage is going to do to the rest of the planet from an economic perspective. So, you know what? From an economic perspective, I'm sure that Canadians, other countries can get different deals done. And I hate using that word deal, but different agreements in terms of fair trade internationally. Yep. What I'm afraid of more than anything is this psycho has got his finger on the red button, A, and B, he's ruling the country of the United States that the military is his to play with, like a chess piece. That's the scary part. And you and I are right along the border where these guys are going to come flying over, and then what?
Yeah. Oh, and then there's something else. He's talking about what's his latest project, the Great Dome, Golden Dome or whatever.
Golden Dome.
Which he fully expects us to agree to be a part of.
Right.
And he just 2 weeks ago, at the latest, he was on Air Force One speaking to reporters, and he said at that point that actually, he said Canada's going to have to pay more to be a part of it. And I think he upped it by $10 billion or whatever.
Yeah.
Like, what?
Gary, he woke up that morning, had a bowel movement, and his brain worked differently. That's all it was.
Hey, why do we want to be part of the Great Golden Dome? Like, we're cutting a deal with the Australians for over the horizon radar and everything. Mm-hmm. And to me, this Great Golden Dome, and at first I thought he was referring to his head and his hair, but it's going to be the same as the Space Force. Remember the Space Force?
Yeah.
From round one of Trump? Mm-hmm. And it looked like a cheesy C-grade Buck Night at the Drive-In movie characters.
Right. Yeah.
And where is it now? I don't know, they're floating around in space somewhere, but you don't hear about the Space Force anymore. And this Golden Dome thing, like, why we would even remotely... I'd nod politely and smile, but I would not open my mouth one way or the other about that.
Well,
but anyway,
look, I mean, you know what it is. I mean, T. Rump will look at something another country has and say, "Oh, it'd be nice if we had that." Well, look at the Iron Dome in Israel. I mean, obviously that technology is just absolutely marvelous. I mean, it is cutting edge stuff. I mean, in order for them to defend themselves, I'm not saying right or wrong in terms of how they're defending themselves, but they are defending themselves. And he probably, that looks great. I think we should have that here. Like in term number one, when, he met, he called him Rocket Man at the time, but he went to see the supreme leader in North Korea. And what did he say when he came back? President for life. Yeah, that sounds nice.
Yeah.
So he sees what's going on in other parts of the world, and yeah, that looks good because I'll be the supreme ruler, and B, I'll probably make some money out of it. If I can make some money out of it, why not? And,
Yeah, why not? Anyway, just to wrap up the segment, because
yeah,
I planted the seed of digression,
yeah. Well, you got me
sorry,
started. I thought I was going to have to hold you back, but you got me going.
sorry I pulled you into this, but anyway, in summary, as far as Carney and Carney's cave, Carney's Tats retreat, however you want to call it, I've mellowed a bit.
Mm-hmm.
He's got about that much runway left. About that much runway left with me as far as this is concerned, but part of me, I understand the Canadian economy and everything, but we are wasting so much time and energy when we could be focusing more so on other trading partners. Because for sure, a year from now, and Kuzma comes up for review next year, we're going to be going through all of this all over again, and he'll find something to complain about in this deal and wipe it out. Like it just seems the return on investment is very short term, and it will end up being more costly in the long run that we wasted this much time and energy with this bird.
Unless he's working on it in the background, and this is all a ruse. This is what you and I are hoping for.
Yeah.
And then we'll sit back and say, okay, smart move, And he might let the Donald beat his chest, and let the fascist blondie propagandist beat her chest, or beat Donald's chest, or whatever she wants to do. You and I would like to see progress. You and I would like to see defending Canada's integrity, whether it's militarily, whether it's our reputation, or economically. You know what? Whoever wants to beat their chest, go ahead. If we are moving forward and minimizing our dependency, as Greg said, minimizing our dependency on the United States of America in any level of degree is a win forward for me. May not come quick, but I think it's going to come quick. You were saying, the military relationship with Australia's system, Over Horizon system, the discussions that Carney had ahead of time with the British Prime Minister in Canada, who showed up early before the G7, him showing up at NATO 3 days before to have private conversations before Conair 1 landed in Europe. All of these things, I'm thinking, wow, he's proactively going out there and doing things before Trump even shows up. I haven't seen a previous administration in Canada do that. They basically showed up, shook hands, took that picture, and then kind of had their meetings. Carney's conducting business before anybody shows up, or the people that he needs to show up early will be there with him, and they'll have discussions. So you know what, Gary, you're right, man. Let's just stay tuned, give it a week or two, and we'll see what the hell happens.
Yeah, we'll be back at it again at some point. So
yeah.
All right. And with that, we will put that issue to bed. And just like that. Coming up later, Eddie digs into the NHL free agency outcomes. Up next, a federal Alberta riding goes to the polls with Conservative leader Pierre Poilievre hoping to gain a seat in the Commons. Well, more and more people are jumping on the video trend on YouTube and other social platforms, and that's where Ecamm comes in. It is a Mac-based video production app allowing you to live stream and or record videos with a professional edge. I use Ecamm for Night Talk. You can get more information and a free trial by clicking the affiliate link in the description below. Well, Prime Minister Carney has called a by-election for August 18th in the Alberta riding Battle River Crowfoot. Now that's the riding where Conservative MP Damien Carrick resigned to pave the way for leader Pierre Poilievre to run and win a seat, hopefully win a seat in the House of Commons. Poilievre has been on the outside looking in since losing his longtime Ottawa area riding in the April general election. And that's, as I said, coming up in August. Prime Minister Carney, one of the first things he promised originally was that he wouldn't play political games, that he would call a by-election if a seat became vacant so that Poilievre would have the opportunity to try and get a seat in the House. It's been during question period, during the brief sitting that they had that ended last month, and just things in general, it's been rather a breath of fresh air, if you will, not watching and listening to the attack dog with all of the 4 or 5 glitzy phrases, slogans that he has or had, and just repeat. It's been a breath of fresh air that way. Now, Poilievre has been on the outside, and when you're on the outside, especially when the Commons is sitting, it's a heck of a lot tougher to get any kind of attention and cut through the political noise. And we've been really witnessing that over the last couple of months. Now, this is it's probably the safest Conservative riding federally in the country. And kudos to this guy who, in some respects, kudos to him, because if I'm a constituent and I'm a hardcore Conservative, yeah, I'm going to want the leader of the party sitting in the House of Commons, but I might also be slightly ticked off that the guy I voted for to represent me locally is resigning to let the leader parachute in and run for the seat. I don't know if there will be any sort of feeling that way, but it could surface to a degree. And Poilievre's already been out there even before the by-election was called and before the resignation, the MP's resignation became official. And in a conversation with Vashi Kapalis on Power and Politics, Carrick said that he was not asked by the party or pressured in any way by anyone or the leader to resign, but he talked it over with his wife, and he hasn't been offered any financial compensation to make up for what he could eventually lose in the form of his MP's pension because of his resigning when he did. He just felt that it was the right thing for him to do for both the leader and the party. Okay, I have to give it to the guy, but for taking that kind of an approach and standing up that way. But I don't know, but like Poilievre's been out there, as I say, even before this all became official, starting to lay the groundwork. And I don't think he'll have a hard time, Eddie.
Yeah.
But by the same token, this is a guy who lost his seat that he's held for a while in the Ottawa area. And yes, the riding boundaries were redrawn, but so were a dozen others across the country. But he lost by 5,000 votes.
Yeah.
And there are some political observers who were suggesting that perhaps what he forgot about or overlooked or ignored was the fact that you're in Ottawa. Most of the people in your riding are either working for or through a federal agency, department, government. They're connected somehow. They're employed, and of course, one of the things that he's been talking about was cutting the size of the civil service. And frankly, I don't have an issue with that because it's top heavy right now. And I know I think Carney and the Liberals are trying to right size it a bit by not renewing contracts for casuals and that sort of thing, because Trudeau went on a hiring spree during the pandemic to try and improve service. Well, that was a major fail because the service got worse.
Right.
We had more people on the payroll, and the service got worse. And as the longer they're there, it's like the dust bunny behind a piece of furniture. You never move; it just keeps getting bigger because you're not doing anything with it. So
Good. Well, good description. I like that.
But he lost by 5,000 votes, and to me, there's a message there. Government, yes, but I think there was another message too, perhaps because of his focus on the leadership at the time, that he started to ignore the everyday issues within the constituency, and maybe he didn't have good people in his constituency office to handle things for him on his behalf. And nothing will get people upset any faster than not getting anywhere with the constituency office of your MP or your MPP, your MNA, your MLA, whatever. So I think it's a little bit broader. And don't forget, this is the guy who had at one point a 25-point lead.
Yeah.
He could have packed up and gone away for 2 months. He probably should have, in hindsight, and still won the election and would have been prime minister. And because he failed to pivot, and as leader, even if it was more on his campaign team and his campaign manager, he's still the leader. He has to wear it.
Yeah.
They didn't pivot fast enough, and boom, all of a sudden, he's on the outside looking in.
Yeah.
And has he been as effective? I don't think so. I don't think he's.
Me neither. I mean, you showed that you showed that clip of what he was saying. I've seen him on camera since he lost the election. He just doesn't seem to have the same gumption in terms of putting himself out there as someone that would be considered a force in the Canadian government. He's just not speaking that way at all. Almost to a certain degree that he almost speaks like he's already defeated. And the sad thing about that is he's going to win this riding because of the history of this riding in terms of the tendency of where they typically vote. So here we have a potential leader of the opposition that doesn't seem to have a very strong and powerful walk and message to convey. How is he going to act once he wins that riding? Okay. And then he becomes the official leader of the opposition. What is he going to do, Gary? I mean, I don't know if he's got the energy or the strength to go back to his usual theatrics in the chamber during question period. How is he going to come across during question period? How is he going to come across the Canadians once he actually wins that riding? I don't know. I'm almost to a point convinced that Carney is hoping that Poilievre wins that riding and is the official leader of the opposition, because I think Carney is going to dance circles around this guy. He just doesn't convey a sense of confidence any longer ever since he lost the election. And with that kind of body language, when he goes in front of a camera, goes in front of reporters, grabs a microphone, makes a comment, it's just not that forceful Poilievre that you and I had grown to love when we actually saw him come on television. I mean, I know it's constantly, oh, you know what, Trudeau the last 10 years and the Liberals the last 10 years and blah, 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 blah. It's 10 years, 10 years Liberals. And he can't go with that anymore. And just to look at how Carney has been handling himself as unofficial Prime Minister of Canada and then winning the election, although it's a minority government, and conducting the government as if it was a majority mandate, that says a lot of, Poilievre should look himself in the mirror and say, my goodness, have I got competition in front of me? How is he going to overcome this? And his backbenchers, the people that are working in as part of the opposition, the critics. You know what? Would you want somebody like that representing you, not having the confidence and the chutzpah to actually do what he needs to do? Is he going to cower there under Carney? That's a big ask of Poilievre. I don't know if he's got the mettle to do this. So it cycles back. He should have resigned.
Oh, there's no question. He should have resigned.
I know he's a career politician, but with a punch in the nose like that from your own riding by 5,000-6,000 votes, which is quite considerable for the size of his riding, that should have been a message. That's writing on the wall.
If he didn't get it with the polls in losing a 25-point lead, and watch it evaporate almost overnight, if you didn't get it there, I don't know if losing your riding by 5,000 votes would help hammer it home. I don't know. I could see him struggling in the first couple of weeks following the election. He was, he was there in the hallway of the Commons with one or two MPs, and but he, I think there was a move behind the scenes to tone him down and pull him away from more of the firebrand politics and be a little more, I won't say soft, but a little more human in a lot of ways, instead of the attack dog style and mentality. And you could almost see, I at least I sensed in a couple of times when he started to respond to something, you could almost see him tighten up and pull back and try and tone it down. Mm-hmm. I don't know if it's his personality to be at the same level or even a little bit above Carney, but and that's the other side of it. It may be an easy ride in this Alberta riding because, as I said earlier, it's the safest, basically the safest Conservative seat in the country. But
you think he's going to?
He still has the rest of the country to deal with.
Well, yeah, and then what about the intimidation factor?
Yeah,
I think that Prime Minister Carney is a positive force to be reckoned with. Here you have Poilievre that seems to not want to quit, but I'm going to keep on going, and he just doesn't portray a sense of confidence that he's confident in himself and what he might be able to accomplish as the official leader. I think there is also an intimidation factor there. I don't think he respected Justin Trudeau at all.
No,
I don't think his front benchers Trudeau's front benchers respected him. Okay,
no.
So it's easy to create a circus during question period when you have absolutely zero respect for the Prime Minister, which was very obvious just about every time there was a debate. We're talking about a whole different human being here in economist, in a big economist, economic expert. Running our country. Poilievre can't hold a candle to him when it comes to economics. I think personally there is an intimidation factor that Poilievre is going to have to overcome, and I'm not sure he's going to be able to do it. If he whether he's up to it from a presentation perspective, or whether he's up to it internally to be able to do it. So you kind of question, why are you hanging around? Like,
Yeah.
what's the end game?
It's something that Poilievre and the Conservatives, I guess, have to figure out on their own. And the Liberals are running. I understand the Liberals are running a candidate in this now. A lot of times, out of courtesy, parties won't run. The mainline parties won't run a candidate against a leader. But as I heard somebody say the other day, and it made sense when I heard it, maybe the Liberals are running to try and whittle down whatever the size of the win is going to be, just to take a little more wind out of the sails.
Yeah, wow. I didn't know that they were running someone. Wow, okay.
Well, that's the word right now, that they're going to have a candidate, and I mean that could be Ottawa happy hour talk, cocktail happy hour talk kind of thing at this stage. But if they do, and it wouldn't surprise me, and why not?
Right.
At the very least, Carney didn't play politics with getting the date declared as quickly as possible after all of the official hoops were jumped through.
Yeah.
And and in some respects, a by-election in the summer after we just went through what seemed to be the election that went on forever. But then you're on the barbecue circuit, and if you get decent weather and you can travel around on the barbecue circuit in that riding, well. Although it's fairly rural riding too.
Yeah. And something just crossed my mind. So, I mean, wow, a leader of a country actually saying he's going to do something, didn't lie, and actually did something. He said he's going to not play politics and he's going to get that by-election going. He didn't lie. Wow, what a novelty. A leader of a country not lying, Gary. Wow. I don't know if I can take it. But you know what? He said he's going to do it. He was true to his word. Never mind true to his word as the Prime Minister of Canada. True to his word as a human being and a man. And he says, I'm going to do it. And he did it. So you know what? Kudos to him. Hats off that he kept his word.
And we have Joe checking in now. I thank the stars that PP lost the election. With his abrasive manner, he would infuriate Trump, who would subsequently eat him for lunch. Had he become prime minister, we'd be waving "Oh glory" in, as he says in his next one, short order.
Mm-hmm.
I think you're right, Joe, as far as Poilievre and Trump are concerned. Trump would have just had him dangling like a puppet on a string, really. I just don't think that Poilievre has that kind of exposure as far as, working on agreements and different things in the back rooms all the time, and especially in the business world and dealing with high flyers in the business, whether they're bankrupt 7 times or not, they're still, in those circles. So I tend to agree that it would not have been an even match at all as far as Trump and Poilievre is concerned. So anyway, it'll be interesting to see once the nominations close as to whether the Liberals actually do field a candidate. Also, the group that targeted Poilievre's riding, the group that's pushing for electoral reform. You remember they ran 100 and some candidates, and the ballot was, remember that long ballot?
Yeah.
Anyway, they're saying that they're going to have double the number of candidates running in this riding against Poilievre.
So they're doing it again.
They're doing it again. Yeah.
Well, you know what? I mean,
And Joe,
it's
send him
it's
back
not.
to his paper route.
You know what? To a certain degree, I mean, Poilievre is trying to run a fair campaign, get reelected, get a seat in, get a riding, get a seat, become official opposition leader. You know what? I understand protest votes and whatnot, Gary, but twice for this protest group to go after Poilievre, it almost sounds unfair and undemocratic that he has to go through this thing again. And I don't know how much of a negative influence is there in that. So it's almost like these guys have it in for Poilievre, and it's not giving him a fair shake, and it's not giving Canadians a fair shake either in terms of voting without wondering, well, what is all this that's going on?
They claim that they were going to do the same thing with Carney in his Ottawa area riding, which was basically next door to Poilievre's.
Right.
But they didn't have enough time to get the number of people
is that what it was?
identified. Yeah, because we didn't find out where Carney was running until later in the process.
Right.
And how many wing nuts can you round up in short
term? Yeah.
There are a few out there, but do you have enough? Like, I don't. Anyway, right. I shouldn't say that, but I did.
Mm-hmm.
I think that one of the quickest changes that needs to come to the electoral process is to stop these people who think that they, just because they have a certain amount of rights, that they can just do anything and
right.
run all of these candidates. I've always said, and I will say until I draw my last breath, and that is, with democracy comes responsibility, and you have to be the responsible person.
Well said. And
that's the way it is. So we've got another, summer of politics coming, and no shortness of fodder to talk about. So anyhow, I think we'll move on from Pierre and watch that one with interest, though. That's going to be interesting to see how that all comes out.
Yeah.
And coming up next, Eddie takes the pulse of the NHL free agency outcome. As we continue to look for Canadian product and services to replace those from south of the border, I have found a Canadian-based solution for cloud storage, replacing OneDrive, bye-bye Microsoft, Google, and iCloud, just to name a few. It's sync.com, whether you need some personal space or you are looking for your business. Sync.com has a variety of plans and pricing available, pricing in Canadian currency, and servers based in Canada, which are subject to Canadian privacy laws. There is an affiliate link in the description below for more information and the opportunity to sign up for a free 5 gig account. Well, here we are. We're here. It's that time. Hang on. The moment you've been waiting for. Eddie is here with his Sports Pulse segment. And Eddie, the NHL was busy as June drew to a close.
Yes, it was. And Gary, that was one hell of an introduction. Thank you very much for that.
I tried.
Yeah, no, that was awesome. That was awesome. Well, you know what? Before I get into the NHL frenzy, the trade frenzy, and the free agent frenzy, just a quick one here. For all you hockey fans out there, and I know Joe's a big one. Alex Del Vecchio, longtime Detroit Red Wing and former captain of the Red Wings, has just passed away at the age of 93. I mean, he won 3 Stanley Cups in the heyday of the Red Wing dynasty in the 50s, and he was a Red Wing from beginning to end. He joined the league in '51. He retired from the Red Wings in 1972. Great guy, very eloquent, always willing to give an interview. He was inducted into the Hockey Hall of Fame in 1977, and he played an outstanding 1,671 games.
Wow.
So, our thoughts go out anytime we have a Hall of Famer of that caliber pass away, and it's very sad to see. But such is life, Gary, and the NHL will forever remember him. And I certainly remember him as a young boy, Alex Delvecchio. I just love that name, especially Canadians and Red Wings playing, and Danny Gallivan mentioning Delvecchio crossing the line. So I do remember him. A lot of us, I'm sure, have some fond memories of his days, and our condolences to his family and his friends. Nice guy. I just thought I'd throw that one in there.
Yeah, no, definitely. And I meant to mention that when we were talking. And, I remember watching the black and white TV, the hockey games in New Brunswick through the regular season. We didn't get the network feed until it was sometime in the second period. So you'd only get the last part of the game. But you still Delvecchio and Gordie Howe and Jacques Plante, and you just go go on and on and on. No helmets or anything like that. Elbows up, shooting match. It was just amazing, and so sad thing, but. He's left a legacy, that's for sure.
Yeah, he had a good life. He passed at 93, so rest his soul. I'm sorry, and condolences to his family.
Absolutely.
Anyway, on the action side, you know what, Gary? I was expecting a hell of a lot more from a frenzy perspective in terms of major trades. So you know what? I'll just stick with some of the things I observed here from for Canadian teams, which is what we're all pretty much interested in. And you know what? I really thought the Edmonton Oilers would be making bigger moves in order to bolster their goaltending and their defensive core, and didn't really see a whole hell of a lot happening. The only thing they did do, from what I've seen, was of consequence was Evander Kane was traded to the Vancouver Canucks for a 2025 fourth round pick. That was pretty much the only big move. I don't think they acquired anything of significance. They also traded away Victor Arvidsson to the Boston Bruins for a 2027 fifth round. So I think they're already thinking kind of maybe a mini rebuild of sorts. I don't know, but they didn't really seem to acquire a whole hell of a lot so far. But the big news is anytime the Toronto Maple Leafs are involved, Gary, I think of you all the time. So one of the core four, Mitch Marner, traded to the Las Vegas Knights for Nicolas Roy. And you know what? I think the Maple Leafs did good in terms of releasing him because Mitch Marner, as you know, Gary, hockey careers are very short. Hockey players are a business on their own. They run their own private. They're all incorporated privately. They want to make the best buck they possibly can while they can play hockey. And Mitch Marner is not the biggest of hockey players, so the wear and tear eventually will get to him. But you know what? I think the Maple Leafs releasing Mitch Marner will get some salary cap space made available to them for the rest of the team. As I mentioned to you, the Toronto Maple Leafs core four take up a majority of the entire salary cap. So getting rid of Mitch Marner as opposed to giving him what he wants, I think was a great move for the Toronto Maple Leafs, number one. And number two, maybe bring up players from the inside and give them an opportunity to showcase themselves. Because Mitch Marner is one of those hockey players that'll get you to the playoffs, but he will not get you through the playoffs. He pretty much disappears when the chips are down. Yeah, he might get a couple of good assists, but you got to put the puck in the net. And the last series he just got completely pushed around by Florida. So he got traded to the Knights, and I think he signed a significant contract as well. So good for him if it works out for him, but I don't know. I think the Las Vegas Knights picked up a flat tire, if you ask me. But only time will tell. I think he's going to turn out being a lemon for them. Maybe their scouts see something else that Marner needed a change of scenery, but time will tell. So I think the Leafs made a good move in getting rid of him, and good riddance. Thank you very much for your time. Let's move on, and we'll see what happens. The other player I want to talk about, which I loved, is the Edmonton Oiler killer, playing for the Florida Panthers, Brad the Rat Marchand. Former captain of the Boston Bruins. I think he scored like 6 or 7 goals against the Edmonton Oilers, and key goals, first goals, overtime goals. I mean, he was just. I thought he should have been the MVP of the Stanley Cup Finals, but such is that he didn't get it. He was rewarded at 37 years of age, $31.5 million contract for 6 years. You know what? Good for him. One of those mucker players that's got experience. He's got talent. He goes into the corners after pucks. He just doesn't float around like the core 4 for Toronto. He's in there. I'm really happy for him. I really am, Gary. Brad Marchand of the Panthers extending his contract for 6 years. And I think that was a major headline. Everybody was thrilled to see. A lot of people online were very thrilled to see that he got that kind of, first of all, that kind of money, and second of all, staying with the Stanley Cup champion. And Gary, I think the Panthers were very interested in keeping him in terms of his leadership, because the Florida Panthers have just become a contender for the Stanley Cup championship again, for a three-peat by bringing Brad Marchand on board. Really, really good news. From the Montreal Canadiens front, I'm not sure if you remember Logan Mailloux, the troubled youngster that Bergevin brought over. He had some run-in with the law in Sweden, and he was brought on board anyway. And as a matter of fact, he was actually hidden away for a while until the dust settled, and he went through. He went through coaching. He went through, I believe, some form of therapy to help him with this problem. He played a few games for the Canadiens, didn't do too bad. Played most of his season with the Laval Rocket. He's a big boy, up and coming, but the Canadiens have traded him. They sent him over to the St. Louis Blues, and they picked up a right winger, a big guy, Zach Bolduc, which is I think is a local boy, and he's going to really contribute to the size factor, which the Montreal Canadiens certainly need. So I think it was a good trade for the Canadiens. And also Caden Primo, goaltender for Canadiens, not last season, but the season before, had a really, really rough time at the NHL level. They finally decided to cut ties with him, and they sent him over to the Carolina Hurricanes, almost for a bag of pucks, really. I mean, this guy was supposed to be the next Patrick Roy, and it just never turned out that way. So yeah, he was traded for a 7th round in 2026. So that's pretty much the equivalent of a bag of pucks. And I hope he does well there. Any other ones here? Yes, the Winnipeg Jets signed Nyquist from the Minnesota Wild. That's a big acquisition for them. And I'm not sure if it's happened or not, but Jonathan Toews, former captain of the Chicago Blackhawks, who kind of retired temporarily for a few years to heal his wounds. I'm not sure if he's done it yet or not, but I think Winnipeg Jets are going to bring him on board for a year, if I'm not mistaken. which I think will be good in terms of getting some added leadership in that dressing room. And that would certainly help. And another one for the Winnipeg Jets is Nikolai Ehlers, top player for the Jets. Today, he's supposed to decide whether he's going to stay with them or not. If he doesn't, it's a big loss for the Winnipeg Jets. Let's talk about the Vancouver Canucks, because we have Joe F.
Yeah.
paying very close attention to this one.
And I was just thinking about that because anything that I heard over the weekend, I didn't hear a whole lot about the Canucks.
No, Bessner is staying. Their top player has decided to stay put, which I think is great for the hockey team. I think they still have some personality conflict issues that they have to contend with in terms of their goaltender and somebody else, because it for some reason was a very, very toxic dressing room last year. And as a result of that, when you have a toxic dressing room, the coaches lose in the dressing room, and then inevitably you don't make the playoffs. And the Canucks did not make the playoffs last year. So good news is Bessner decided to stay. He didn't have to, but he decided to stay. So obviously he must have seen something that was worth his time. And that's pretty much it, Gary. Nothing tremendous beyond that. But the trading season is early. There's still a lot of good free agents available out there, and we'll see what happens. I don't think the Canadians are going to dip in the free agents market, because I tell you what, they have a solid team going into next season. A solid bunch of youngsters that continue to build on. Bringing in Zach Bolduc in terms of size and experience and expertise will certainly help with some gray hairs in the team. You need a good balance of young guys and a lot of experience. So you know what? I think we're going to have a very, very exciting season again with the Montreal Canadiens.
And this is what are the rebuilding? This would be year 4?
I think this is going to be year 4. Yeah, year 4 or 5. I think it's year 4 actually.
Yeah.
Besides the trade front, also I just wanted to mention about Carey Price. He was overlooked for the Hall of Fame this year. He will be a Hall of Famer. They elected not to choose him this year in terms of the voting. A lot of folks are saying, he's never won a Stanley Cup, yada yada. But you know what? He's won everything else. And you really have to look at the horrible teams, the Montreal Canadiens teams that he's played with. Only one time had he ever had a forward in front of him that scored more than 70 points, and that was Kovalev. And that's eons ago. So, you know what? Fantastic goaltender. Deserves the Hall of Fame. It's just unfortunate there's no way he was going to win a Stanley Cup with the Montreal Canadiens of those days. A young Carey Price now on that team, with the set of players that are there, guaranteed to win a Stanley Cup at some point. So he'll get on there at some point. And last but not least, just breaking off from the NHL just for a second, Gary, the Canadian Football League and my glorious, wonderful Montreal Alouettes. Well, they lost their starting quarterback, and guess what inevitably happened? They lost the game. So Alouettes are without their starting quarterback. They lost to the Hamilton Tiger Cats 35-17. Just for our colleague out west, Joe F., who's a beloved British Columbia Lion fan, they lost to Saskatchewan Roughriders last week, 37-18, Joe. Better luck next time. The only team that remains undefeated at 4-0 are the Saskatchewan Roughriders, who beat the said British Columbia Lions last week. Their quarterback used to be Montreal Alouettes quarterback Trevor Harris. They are 4-0 right now. He's got them running on all cylinders. They're the only team that's 4-0 right now. So good for them. I'm really pleased to see the former Alouette is making career for himself again. And the next game in Montreal on Saturday is said British Columbia Lions against Montreal Alouettes. So Joe, we'll have to get together for a bet or something, and maybe send a case of beer to each other, depending on who wins or loses.
Yeah, for sure. A couple of virtual beers of all the games.
A couple of virtual beers too. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah,
and that's it from my front, Gary.
Well, that was a busy sports pulse.
Thank you.
A lot going on there, and you're on top of it. So Anyhow, from backroom tax diplomacy to high-stakes political plays in the NHL's contract chaos, it's all about who makes the right move at the right time.
Yeah.
That's it for this episode of Night Talk. Remember to like, share, subscribe to help expose our stream and channel to more people like you. And keep the conversation going. If you're watching the replay, post your thoughts below. We will respond. Night Talk returns in 7 days. I'm Gary MacDonald. Good night.
Good night, everybody.